HOA Karen's sneer could curdle milk from a mile away. She waddled through the parking lot like she owned it, her oversized purse swinging like a wrecking ball, ready to smash anyone who dared question her divine right to do whatever she pleased. The sun was sinking behind the cracked asphalt of the old strip mall, casting long shadows over the rows of dusty cars. I'd parked my Jeep Wrangler there, a beat-up beauty I'd poured my savings into, locked up tight with a heavy-duty chain. It wasn't much, but it was mine until HOA Karen decided it wasn't. She'd been eyeing it for weeks, muttering about how kids these days didn't deserve nice things. I'd overheard her at the diner, her voice like a foghorn, complaining that my Jeep took up her favorite parking spot. Never mind that it was public parking, or that she drove a gas-guzzling SUV she could barely maneuver without sideswiping a mailbox. That evening, I was at the diner across the lot, nursing a coffee and scrolling through my phone, when I glanced out the window. There she was, HOA Karen, all 300 pounds of her, huffing and puffing as she wrestled with a pair of bolt cutters. The chain around my Jeep's wheel didn't stand a chance. Her face was a mask of smug triumph, like she was starring in her own vigilante movie. She didn't just want the Jeep, she wanted to teach me a lesson, to prove she was above the rules, above everyone. I froze, my coffee cup halfway to my lips. This wasn't just petty theft, this was personal. HOA Karen had a reputation in town. She'd berated cashiers for not accepting her expired coupons, screamed at dog walkers for letting their pets sniff her lawn, and once called the cops on a kid's lemonade stand for unpermitted commerce. She was the kind of person who'd demand to speak to the manager of a thunderstorm for ruining her hair. And now, she'd set her sights on my Jeep. I grabbed my phone, heart pounding, and started recording through the diner's grimy window. The lot was mostly empty, save for a nervous-looking guy in a hoodie lingering near a dumpster, probably waiting for a ride. Karen didn't notice him, too busy hacking at the lock. The chain fell with a dull clank, and she let out a triumphant grunt, tossing the bolt cutters into her purse like she'd just won a carnival game. She climbed into the driver's seat, her bulk making the Jeep creak, and fumbled with the ignition. What Karen didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that my Jeep wasn't just any vehicle. It was part of a sting operation. A month ago, I'd been approached by a federal task force investigating a car theft ring that had been hitting lots across the state. They'd asked to use my Jeep as bait, rigged with a GPS tracker and a silent alarm. I'd agreed, half out of civic duty, half because I was broke and they offered to cover my insurance for a year. The moment Karen touched that lock, she tripped the alarm, and the feds were already closing in. 2 black SUVs rolled into the lot, silent as sharks. Karen was too busy cursing at the Jeep's stick shift to notice. The guy by the dumpster flinched, his eyes darting between Karen and the approaching vehicles. He looked like he wanted to bolt, but was rooted to the spot, clutching his phone like a lifeline. I kept filming, my hands shaking, as 2 agents in dark jackets stepped out, their movements precise and unhurried. They didn't shout or draw weapons. They didn't need to. Their presence alone screamed authority. "Ma'am, step out of the vehicle," one of them said, his voice calm but sharp enough to cut glass. Karen's head snapped up, and for the first time, her smug mask cracked. Her eyes bulged, her mouth flapping like a fish out of water. "What? Who are you?" "This is my parking spot," she sputtered, as if that explained everything. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for attempted grand theft auto and tampering with a federal operation," the second agent said, pulling out a pair of cuffs. The words hit Karen like a slap. She started yelling, her voice rising to a screech that could wake a coma patient. "This is outrageous. Do you know who I am? I'm calling my lawyer. This is entrapment." The agents didn't flinch. They'd probably heard worse from better. The guy by the dumpster was now filming too, his phone trembling in his hands. I wondered if he was just a bystander or part of the sting. Either way, he wasn't missing this show. Karen kept shouting, demanding to see their badges, claiming she was just checking the Jeep for a friend. The lies poured out faster than her sweat as the agents pulled her from the driver's seat. She stumbled, her purse spilling receipts and half-eaten candy bars onto the pavement. I stepped out of the diner, still recording, my heart a mix of rage and grim satisfaction. Karen's eyes locked onto me, and her face twisted into a snarl. You set me up, you little punk, she screamed, as if I'd personally orchestrated her downfall. I didn't bother responding. The truth was, she'd done this to herself. Years of bullying, of thinking she was untouchable, had led her straight to those cuffs. The agents read her rights as she flailed, her complaints growing more absurd by the second. This is because I'm a woman, isn't it? You're all sexist, she wailed, then pivoted to, I pay taxes. I fund your salaries. The guy by the dumpster snorted, barely stifling a laugh. One of the agents glanced at me, giving a slight nod, and I stopped recording. They didn't need my footage. Cameras hidden in the lot had caught everything. But I'd keep it anyway, a little memento of justice served. As they loaded Karen into the back of an SUV, her voice still echoing across the lot, I thought about all the people she'd trampled over the years. The cashiers, the kids, the neighbors who'd learned to avoid her. She'd built her throne on petty cruelties, convinced she was above consequence. But tonight, the universe had other plans. The task force wasn't just after her, they were closing in on the theft ring's ringleader, who'd been using lowlifes like Karen to scout vehicles. She was a small fish, but her arrest would ripple, exposing bigger players. The guy by the dumpster finally spoke, his voice shaky but laced with awe. Man, she really thought she could just take it? I shrugged, pocketing my phone. She thought she could take anything. We watched as the SUVs pulled away, Karen's silhouette still ranting in the back seat. The lot fell quiet, the only sound the faint hum of the diner's neon sign. I walked over to my Jeep, running my hand over the scratched paint where the chain had been. It wasn't perfect, but it was still mine. The feds would replace the lock, maybe even throw in a detail job for my trouble. But the real reward was knowing Karen's reign of terror was over. She'd face charges, maybe jail time, and the whole town would hear about it. Her name would become a punchline, a cautionary tale about what happens when you think you're above everyone else. As I climbed into the driver's seat, I glanced at the concrete wall where someone, maybe the guy by the dumpster, maybe a bored kid, had scrawled the night's events in chalk. HOA Karen cut my lock and tried to steal my Jeep, didn't know it triggered a federal task force. It was perfect, a gritty monument to her downfall. I drove home, the weight of the night settling into something like peace. Sometimes, the world writes itself, one snap lock at a time. The end.